Okay, welcome everyone. First off, I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you for taking time out of your busy Thursday afternoon and spending it with us. So the goal is I want to make sure that every single agent on, and it doesn't matter if you've never sold an IUL before or you're a seasoned veteran that's in the MDRT status, right, year after year, good for you. Because the goal is going to be that every single one of you walks away with a new idea, a sales strategy, a new angle, maybe a new story to tell, right, to move the needle in the IUL space. We know it's a hot button, especially right now, and especially with a leader in the industry like Allianz, right? We know that for a fact. We just want to get more involved, right? The average target premium on these cases are anywhere from $20,000 to $40,000. So you already know how high the commission can be on just one application, one case, one policy. So it would behoove you to make sure you're paying attention to us for the next, 55 minutes or so. You're writing down notes so you don't forget these things. Use your notes app. I don't care. If you have questions, comments, feedback, good, bad, indifferent, we also want to hear from you. You can use the chat box there. And what we're going to do is if we have a few minutes at the end, we're going to ask some of the questions live. If we're running short on time, we're going to get back to every single one of you with the correct answer and even a call from a marketer if that's needed as well, because we want to make sure you're up and running with Allianz and, of course, with Levinson, so you get all the tools, the scholarship program, all of the above. So that's the name of the game. And here's what's so neat about this. This is a master IUL class, and like I said, for rookies or the veterans. So we just had our expo a few weeks ago, right? And as you know, especially if you were there, we had 13 core carriers there, okay, presenting. They had a booth, sponsorships, all the above. And out of all the presentations of the day, we had the most and best feedback when it came to Allianz IUL. Okay, we had our VP, Eric Johnson, was presenting. He did a fantastic job, but we literally we do a survey and then we have questionnaires. We had the most comments and questions about this Allianz presentation. So we decided to turn it into a master class, and that's why we're here today. But again, we love what they represent. Their A+ rating by AM Best is a huge plus that I would be using out there when you're telling the IUL story. And when it comes to this product alone, they own this space, and it's not just me saying it. The proof in the pudding is year after year, they are #1 in combined IUL sales per LIMRA and NALBA. So that's a big deal. Okay, I don't want to toot their horn anymore. I want to make sure that you walk away with some sales nuggets here today. You can see all of the bullets in front of you. What we're also going to do is a giveaway at the end, like we always do every week on Thursday. So whoever answers our question of the day, which I'm going to ask at the end, the answer is actually in the slides that we're going over. Whoever answers first incorrectly, we're going to announce your name, and you're going to win the new Fire HD8 tablet. And we have 2 new versions of the IUL prospecting books, okay, on us. By the way, if you leave a review on our Google page, our Facebook page, you also get a free prospecting book, as long as you're an active agent with at least one company. Hopefully that's Allianz. Okay, let's jump right in here. I have just a couple minutes, and then I'm turning it over to Will, who runs business development at our Allianz home office. Okay, so I'm very anxious and excited to hear him speak today. Let's go to the first slide here if we can. And I want to talk about what's most important, what's #1 to us, and that's our agents, because without you, we would not be here. And I know that sounds cliche, but we do not sell in the retail space whatsoever. Okay, we believe it's a conflict of interest. It should be illegal. You, our agent, you are our #1, our customer, right? You are what moves the needle in this office every day. When you're happy, we're happy, literally. So when we see these come in, it literally makes us on top of the world. We do lunches at the end of the week when enough come in, and Our entire staff loves to see this when we share these great comments. Like Chris said, let's see on the bottom here. This is from our Facebook page, one of the best organizations I've ever worked with. All of the staff, including the entire leadership, are always engaged and ready to assist. I would recommend Levinson above all others in the industry, just based on transparency alone. Chris, that is everything. Okay, I don't have to say it again, but moves the needle internally and with the entire staff. Dennis, I'm not going to go over every single word here, but just real fast, I've used other IMOs. We found that Levinson to be the very best. And again, I know it sounds like I'm tooting my own horn here, but this is coming from you all out in the field. Okay, thank you again. Rosie, Christy is the best. She helped me structure 2 small IULs that happen to be with Allianz. And I know, Rosie, I see your name, so you're listening, and thank you for sharing. Okay, again, that's a heartfelt thanks to all of you. Let's keep going. This is my last slide here, and then Will's taking the wheel. Real fast, I want to point out these are all of our IUL go-tos in the space. And I just want to say that there's a reason we have all of these carriers, right? If you're looking at, living benefits, or you're looking at maybe a smaller death benefit policies, right? But maybe still IUL. Maybe it's an underwriting niche, okay? We have you covered. You're never going to have a situation where you're going to say, Bill, I have a 53-year-old man. He happens to be height and weight challenged. He's 122 pounds over. Who's going to give the best class? We're going to tell you what company, health class, premium, and you're never going to find something better. That's my promise to you all. But you're also going to see Allianz as our #1 go-to with the yellow arrow. Why? Because they also come with the free scholarship program. And then #2, when you look at cash accumulation, cost of insurance, this unique rate lock feature, okay, which you as a client, as the insured, will have a chance to do this every year with no cap on what you can lock in for the year. That's a feature no one else has. And I mean, there's so many other things, non-med up to $3 million. Their underwriting is awesome. And the list goes on and on, but that's why they're front and center with the yellow arrow. So let's keep moving forward. I think that tells the whole story. All right, Will is going to take it from here once again, and just sit back, relax, and take plenty of notes, and we're all going to learn something new today. Will, are you there, buddy?
Yes, I am. Thank you so much, Bill. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, loud and clear. Thank you.
All right, excellent. Well, thank you so much for that glowing intro. We appreciate everything that you guys do for us here at Allianz, and we love working with you guys. And really, really excited to spend some time with you guys here today, speaking with you. So a little bit of the agenda for what I'm going to be going through. First, I'm going to talk to you guys about, where does Allianz fit in the life insurance space? Where are we a fit? Where are we not a fit? And really, who is the target market for what we're going after with our space in the life insurance market, because we have one product. So, I mean, I'll tell you transparently, our product is not out there for everybody, but if you're looking to solve the right problem, we have the best product on the market. Once I go through that, I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about kind of what's the key selling point behind IUL, and especially with the Allianz IUL. Where do we really differentiate ourselves, and what's the sales story that you can talk about with the client when you're in front of them to assist you in selling this product? And going through that, it's going to give you a great 30,000-foot overview of Allianz as a company and our product, and really kind of where we're a fit, how to sell us effectively. And then once we get through that conversation, if we still have a little bit of time here, I want to walk you guys through just a little bit of case design, show you guys kind of a real world example of exactly what I'm talking about. So with that, I'm going to pull up my screen so that you guys can follow along a little bit, and I'm going to be sticking as close as I can to these slides. But first, let's talk about, where does Allianz fit in the life insurance marketplace? So with life insurance, there's really a spectrum of products. And on one side of that spectrum is going to be products that are good for getting you the most death benefit for your money. You have the client who comes and says, I need $1 million in death benefit. What's the cheapest that I can get it? On the other side of that spectrum is going to be products that are good for cash value accumulation. Now, Allianz fits very firmly on the side of cash value accumulation. So, I mean, like I had mentioned earlier, we're not going to be for everybody. If you have a client that says to me, I need $1 million a death benefit, what's the cheapest I can get it? Allianz probably is not going to be the right choice for that client. But if you have a client that is looking for a life insurance policy with a death benefit, but also provides the best way for that client to be able to grow cash value within that policy in a tax advantaged way, to be able to access that cash value later on income tax free, and we'll talk about that a little bit later, that's where Allianz is out there the best product in the market. So that's really our space in the market. We're very much on the cash value accumulation side of the spectrum. And the kind of natural question from there is, who's going to be the right fit for that kind of policy? So our issue ages are 0 to 80, really wide range. But what I'd consider really kind of our A clients, if I look for what's our bread and butter case that we're handling every day. If you're looking for an absolute A client, you're going to want to look for somebody who's generally about age 30 to about age 55. Typically, they're pretty high earners, along with the children of those clients. We do write a lot of juvenile policies as well. Those are really going to kind of be like your main A clients. We do, like I said, our issue ages are 0 to 80. So, I mean, we do write policies on people older than age 55. And I write and I design plenty of them myself for people over the age of 55. Excuse me. But where it kind of stops making sense a little bit is once you get into like your mid 60s, then it's just sort of a matter of, can we design a case that makes sense? Because these life insurance policies for cash value accumulation generally need time to accumulate before we actually access the cash value within that policy. And once you get over about mid 60s, it can be hard to design a policy in which it makes sense in terms of how long we need that policy to grow before we access that cash value. But there are policies that we write. It's just a matter of, let's take a look at the individual scenario and see if it makes sense. But again, a client, typically about age 30 to age 55, your high earners. So with that, let's talk a little bit more specifically about the Allianz life insurance policy and, what's the key selling point behind it. And there's going to be a word that I keep coming back to today over and over again, and that word is flexibility. And when I say flexibility, I mean that in a couple of different ways. Number one, flexibility in terms of the way that you can grow your money, and also flexibility in terms of the way that you can access that cash value. So obviously it is a life insurance policy. It does have a death benefit component to it. Primary reason life insurance exists is to provide a death benefit. But life insurance can also provide a great way to accumulate your money on a tax deferred basis. So let's talk first about flexibility in terms of the way that you can grow your money. So one of the key advantages that Allianz has over everybody else in the marketplace is that, unlike everybody else, we do all of our own hedging. So what does that mean? So with every other insurance carrier, typically they'll gather up premiums and either on a weekly, monthly, quarterly sweep, they'll go to an investment bank to buy options to index that money. Allianz, right here, a few floors below me, we actually do all of the hedging for Allianz's entire global entity. So that gives us a few key advantages. Number one, it allows us to be very dynamic in being able to create new ways for your clients to grow their money. So if you guys have been in this industry a while, and especially have been working with Allianz for a while, one thing you might have noticed is that typically we're pioneers in being able to create new product features and ways for clients to grow their money. So things like monthly sum crediting method was originally created by Allianz way back in the day. Volatility controlled indexes that you now see at every other carrier out there, we really pioneered those as well, along with a number of other features that we've created. So it allows us to be very dynamic in terms of creating new ways to grow your money, or if we see something that's not working well, being able to adjust it. And you saw that from our old product that we used to sell. We updated it and we changed one of the indexes because we didn't like the way that the bond component was performing. And we were able to adjust that for a new product and get it instituted right away. So it allows us to be very dynamic in creating ways for clients to grow their money. Doing our own hedging also means that we can get better prices on our options, which means that there's no investment bank in the middle. They don't need to take their cut. We can pass those savings along to clients via better caps and participation rates. But right here, you can see the different indexes that we have. These top two right here that you're seeing, these are two volatility controlled indexes, the Bloomberg and the PIMCO. We also have a blended futures index, S&P 500 futures index, a standard S&P 500 index, and a fixed allocation. So you can diversify between any of these options as well as any of our four bonus options that we have to any percentage that you'd like. And I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit more about our bonus options here coming up. But all four of these top indexes that you see are also lockable. And we're going to talk about index lock here in a second, because index lock is also one feature that Allianz has that nobody else in the industry has, because they can't have it. In order to be able to provide an index lock feature, you need to be able to do your own hedging. So these are the different indexes that we have. Let's talk briefly about different crediting methods that we have. And vast majority of the policies that you're going to write are going to be using an annual point-to-point crediting method. Annual point-to-point, very simple. We take a look at where does your year start, where does your year end. The difference between those two is going to be your return. The two on the right are only available using our standard S&P 500 index. We have a monthly sum option where we create 12 separate monthly segments. You add up what they have an upside cap on each monthly segment, and you add up what all those monthly segments do at the end of the year. That's the return that you get. And the trigger method, also something that I think is very, very cool, and also, you know, somewhat underutilized within our policy. The trigger is very cool because we have a declared trigger rate. So right now, I think it's 8.25. And that means that if the S&P 500 is positive at all, regardless of if it's 0.1%, 5%, 10%, 15%, you get that declared trigger rate. So if the S&P 500 is up 1%, I'd get 8.25. If the S&P 500 is up 5%, I'd get 8.25. I mean, kind of the flip side of that is if the S&P 500 is up 20%, I get 8.25. So in years where you think you might have a low return, the trigger can be a very attractive option, because if it's positive at all, you get that declared trigger rate, which right now is 8.25. So we have a number of different indexes that you see here. We also have a number of different crediting methods, and we also have a number of different bonus options. So you see down here at the bottom, different bonus options that we have. And kind of the one that's not listed and the one you see listed here is NA under S&P 500, are what's called our standard bonus options. So standard, very simple. It means there's no bonus, there's no fee. That's going to offer our highest pure caps and participation rates. And that also has different crediting methods with the S&P 500. Our next bonus option is going to be our classic bonus option. So classic is a 1% guaranteed bonus with no charge, and no charge also guaranteed. All of our bonuses and all of the and if we have a charge for it, these are all fully guaranteed for the life of the policy. They'll never change. So again, standard, no bonus, no fee, highest pure caps and participation rates. Classic is a 1% flat rate bonus with no additional fee. Our bonus option is a 15% multiplier bonus with no fee. And our select option is a 40% multiplier bonus with a 1% asset charge. And again, all those bonuses are fully guaranteed for the life of the policy, as well as the 1% asset charge for the select. That is also fully guaranteed for the life of the policy. So we have a lot of different allocation options. We have a number of different crediting methods, and we also have 4 different bonus options for you. And you have the ability to diversify to your heart's extent, as long as the percentage is a whole number. So no 33.333, it's either 33 or 34. But you can diversify between any of these index options, crediting methods, and bonus options as much as you'd like. So you have a lot of flexibility, as well as the option to rebalance those allocations on an annual basis. And kind of the second component to that I want to talk to you guys about is a really cool feature that only Allianz has, and that's index lock. And the reason that we have this and nobody else does is because we do all of our own hedging here on a daily basis. So let's say you sold an Allianz policy last year, and we're looking now halfway through the year. I log into the Allianz website, or I get an email from Allianz telling you that you have a good opportunity for it, and I see that I have a 12% return, or maybe a 15% return, whatever it might be. I'm just making up numbers for this. But halfway through the year, I have a 12, 15% return. I have the option to lock that return in so that no matter what happens in the rest of the policy year, my return is protected. And there's a couple of different ways that I can do that. What I just described to you guys right now is what's called a manual lock. So manual lock is exactly how I described it. I see what I want, I like it, I click the big blue button on the Allianz website and I lock my return in. No matter what happens in the market the rest of that policy year, that return is protected. So even if the market takes a 50% hit, I still get that return that I had locked in. The other way of doing that is through what's called an auto lock. So auto lock requires a little bit less monitoring on your part, and Allianz will send every couple of weeks. We'll send you an email with telling you what good opportunities you have for index lock. But if you don't want to deal with going in and manually checking through the year, I can set an auto lock target. So again, I'm just making up numbers here. Let's say that I log in and I see that my return right now is 6%. You know, we still got a lot of year left in my policy. I don't think we want to return, we don't want to lock that low. But I could set an auto lock target. Again, let's make up numbers here. Let's say at 12%. And if at any point during the rest of that policy year, my return gets above that 12% return, Allianz will lock it automatically for you. We also have a kind of a bottom fence on that. So if I see that my return right now is 9, I set an auto lock target at 12. I could also set a lower target at like 8, so that if my return goes below that, my return gets locked as well. So you can kind of put a fence on both sides of where your return is at to make sure that your return is going to be protected and will be locked automatically for you. So, I mean, think about this as an agent. How much are you guys looking for a good opportunity to get in front of clients with good news in the middle of their policy year? How good of an opportunity does that provide for you to ask for a referral if I call somebody halfway through their policy year and tell them, you know, you got a 15% return. Let's lock this in and protect your return so that no matter what happens in the market, your return is protected. And, you know, if you really like that, you know, who else do you know that this might be a good fit for? Great opportunity for you as agents to be able to get in front of clients mid-year with great news, to be able to generate new business via referrals. So index lock, really, really cool thing. So combine that flexibility to control what your return is going to be via index lock, along with all the different indexes, all the different crediting methods that we have, along with our 4 different bonus options, really goes to show you how much flexibility that you have when it comes to different ways to grow your money within the Allianz life insurance policy. Again, I told you I'm going to keep coming back to that word flexibility throughout this entire presentation, because I think it's a key selling point behind IUL in general, but especially the Allianz product. So right here, you can see kind of an example of that auto lock feature that I told you about. Guy's return is right here. You can set an upper target and a lower target to make sure that your return is protected. And it's pretty simple to do from the Allianz website. When you're looking at a policy, we'll have a big blue button for index lock that you can click and either manually lock it or set upper and lower targets. We also do have an index lock report that you can view from the website. So put all that together, and that's what I mean when I'm talking about when I say you have a lot of flexibility in terms of the way that you can grow your money. Now, let's take a look at the other side of the coin, because typically with these life insurance policies, there's an accumulation phase and also a distribution phase when we're accessing the cash value that we've built throughout the years. And again, you don't have to, but most of the designs that we see are people are going to be eventually accessing the cash value within their policy. And we have a ton of flexibility within different ways for you to access the cash value within their policy. So I'm gonna talk you through the different ways to access the cash value, going from really what I consider the least popular to the most popular ways for people to access the cash value within their policy. So the way that I see people access their cash value least commonly would be through partial withdrawals, or excuse me, through withdrawals, or more commonly called partial surrenders. So those are pretty simple. I want to make a withdrawal from my cash value. When I do that, it's going to reduce my death benefit, it's going to reduce my cash value, and it's going to reduce my accumulation value. And that will be income tax free up until my basis. So up until how much I've paid into the policy, it will come out tax-free. But once I surpass that basis, I'm going to be taxed on the gains when I take withdrawals. And for that reason, that's going to be the least popular way that people are going to access their cash value, which it is done, but I just don't see it being done as much as the second option, which is a significantly more popular way of doing it, which is taking a loan against the death benefit. So as you guys all probably know, the death benefit of a life insurance policy comes out income tax free. So people will typically take money out of their policies via loans against the death benefit, because the loans against the death benefit of policy also come out income tax free, even when it's above your basis. So for that reason, loans are by far a more popular way of accessing the cash value within your policy. And we have two types of loans. Really, we have three types of loans, but the two types of loans that we have are fixed loans and index loans. And I'll tell you the difference about those two in just a second, but the less popular of the two is going to be fixed loans. And within fixed loans, we have two types just depending on when you take it. In the first 10 years, it's called a standard loan. After 10 years, it's called a preferred loan. So in the first 10 years, it's a 2.91% charge, and it doesn't show it here, but you actually get a guaranteed 2% credit for that as well. So that comes out to a net 1% cost in the first 10 years if I were to take a fixed loan. After year 10, it's a 1.96% charge and a 2% credit. All of those loan charges and credits, by the way, fully guaranteed for the life of the policy. These will never change on your client. I'm telling you what they're going to be. This is what they're going to be. So after year 10, 1.96% charge, 2% credit, so a net 0% cost loan. So one more time, years 1 through 10, net 1% cost for a fixed loan. Years 11 plus, net 0% cost for a loan. I mean, net 0% cost for a loan is a really attractive option if you're comparing it to something like a loan from a bank or something like that. And the most popular way that people are going to take money out of their policy is through index loans. So let's talk briefly about what's the difference between a fixed loan and an index loan. So when I take a fixed loan, that is going to reduce my death benefit, it's going to reduce my accumulation value, and it's going to reduce my cash value. When I take an index loan, that's going to reduce my death benefit and my cash value, but it is not going to reduce my accumulation value. So what's the relevance of that? When I get, let's say at the end of my policy year, I get a 10% return. 10% of what? When I apply that 10% would get applied to whatever my accumulation value is. So that means that with an index loan, even though that money is loaned out, it's still indexed and earning an index credit for you. So it's a guaranteed 5% charge on an index loan with Allianz, and I'm going to get a credit at the end of the year, but what's that credit going to be? That I can't tell you. It's going to depend on how your allocation options performed. So worst case scenario is that, market was terrible this year. I'm getting a 0% return. I have a 5% charge. My cost for that loan that year is going to be 5%. If I get a 5% return, it's essentially a wash loan because I've made back the 5% of the loan charge, and it's a net 0% cost loan. If I get a 10% return, not only did I make back that initial 5% for the loan charge, but I've also netted an additional 5% on top of the loan charge. So index loans offer you the opportunity for positive arbitrage on the money that you have loaned out to you already. So even though that money's loaned out to the client, it's still earning an index credit for them with the opportunity to earn an index credit above what that loan charge is. And that opportunity for positive arbitrage is really what makes it the most popular option for taking loans against your death benefit and accessing your cash value. Theoretically, that is what allows you to take the most money out in the long term, due to that opportunity for positive arbitrage. But, you know, what's the word that I told you guys that I'm going to keep coming back to today? It's flexibility. So not only do we have these different options for you, but you have the option to take any percentage that you want of either type of loan in any year, and the opportunity to rebalance what that is going to be every single year. So, you know, if I think this next year in the market is going to be screaming, I have the opportunity for a great return, probably outpace what that 5% loan charge is going to be. In that case, I'd probably want to either have most or all of my loan balance in the indexed option, because that's going to give me the opportunity for positive arbitrage there. But let's say that happens, I get a great return that year, but you know, there's some turmoil in the marketplace, and you know, I think the next year we're probably looking like we might get a 0% return. In that situation, I'd probably want to rebalance and skew myself more towards the fixed loan option, because again, after year 11, it's a net 0% cost for that loan that year. So I don't want to get stuck with a 5% loan charge when I have a 0% return. Maybe I want to put a portion of my loan balance into fixed loans that year. So you can take any percentage that you want of either, and you have the option to rebalance what that's going to be on an annual basis. So combine that with these other different ways of accessing the cash value, either through a withdrawal or full surrender. That's what I mean then when I say that you have a lot of flexibility in terms of the way that you can access that cash value. I have withdrawals, I have fixed loans, I have index loans. I can take any percentage that I want of either, and I have the option to rebalance what that is on an annual basis. And I do just want to call back one more time to the guarantees that we have in place, both on the bonuses as well as our loan charges and credits. Because at the end of the day, when does that really matter for the client? It's later on in the policy's life, when they've paid a lot of money in premium into the policy, and the policy at that point, they're not paying into it anymore, it's self-sustaining. That's when it's so important for the client to have guarantees in place stating, we will never lower your bonuses, we will never increase your fees on your loans, and we will never decrease the credits that you get on our fixed loans as well. So that's, when you think about IUL, you typically don't think about hefty guarantees outside of that 0% floor, but those are some very, very key guarantees that we have in place to protect the client later on in life when it really, really matters for them. So I know I just threw a ton at you guys, but that's really what I mean when I say that we have a lot of flexibility, both in terms of the way that you can grow your money, as well as the way that you can access your cash value within the policy. A lot of flexibility in the accumulation phase as well as the distribution phase. And when you guys are in front of a client, flexibility is a word that I think you guys should talk about a lot when it comes to IUL, because along with that, we have a lot of flexibility in terms of the way that we can design a policy in the first place. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second here when I get over to kind of the second portion of this, which is case design. So before I do that, we also do have some really cool riders built into our policy as well. We have a loan protection rider, which I know we were just talking a lot about loans. One thing that is never good when it happens is somebody takes out too much money in loans and they eat away at the cash value too much and the policy lapses. If a policy lapses in that scenario, essentially the client is going to get taxed on those gains all at once. And that's something we really want to avoid. So we do have a break glass in case of emergency protection built into the policy through our loan protection rider. In order to qualify for that, client has to be at least 75 and have the policy for at least 15 years. But if they take out too much money in loans, we will prevent the policy from lapsing, and essentially the policy becomes a reduced paid up policy. They lose control over it, but they do not get hit with the big tax bomb from a big life insurance policy lapsing later on in life after years and years and years of gains. We have a new waiver of new charges benefit. We have two living benefit riders, a terminal illness rider and a chronic illness rider. Those are huge as well when you're talking to a client to let them know that, you know, if you become chronically or terminally ill, we have a way for you to access the cash value within your policy while you're still, to access the death benefit of your policy while you're still alive. Again, tax-free. We also have an enhanced liquidity rider, and we see that occasionally, especially in premium finance cases. That allows you to waive either 50% or 100% of your surrender charges. We have a premium deposit fund rider, which is for your client who says, you know what, I don't want to deal with paying this company year after year. I just want to pay it into a policy once and be done. Well, you typically don't want to pay all your money into a life insurance policy all at once, because unless you're willing to create a mech, the death benefit that you'd have to carry would be so high that it would essentially make the policy inefficient and probably lapse later on. Our premium deposit fund rider allows the client to pay a lump sum to Allianz once. We create a separate account for it here that we pay an industry-leading 6% index interest credit on, and then we pay that into the policy over a set number of years between 3 and 10. We also have a supplemental term rider, and that can be used a few different ways, which don't really think we have time to get too much into term blending options today, but either good option to add some extra death benefit when you need it. You know, maybe I have kids that are going to be in college for the next 10, 15 years. I need some extra death benefit, and then let's drop it off. Or less commonly, where you say, you know what, I need to, I either want to make this policy a little bit more efficient or drive the minimum premium down slightly. We can term blend it as well to make that happen. One thing to note is that supplemental term is non-commissionable to you as the agents. We also have a waiver of specified premium rider if they were to become disabled. So with that, we do have some additional resources on our website, and really what I gave you guys today is really a 30,000-foot overview on the Allianz product and what's the key selling point behind it. The one thing I'd encourage you guys to all take a look at would be our financial professional guide. That is my absolute #1 favorite resource that does a really good job of going A to Z on what all the different product features and little quirks are. And if you read that, you're either going to have a lot of questions for your marketers as well as Allianz, or you probably didn't read it. But it's my absolute #1 favorite resource. I encourage you guys to all take a look at it. With that, I do have to show you guys just a couple seconds of disclosures on these. But the next thing that we're going to do today is I'm going to show you guys, you know, where do I access the illustration software on the Allianz website, and how do I effectively design a case? I talked to you guys a lot about, you know, what are the selling points behind it, but let's take a look at kind of a real world example and show you guys what it looks like. So with that, let me pull up the Allianz website for you guys. And Bill, you guys are still seeing my screen, correct?
Yep, we are. Perfect.
All right, excellent. And again, if you guys do have questions, please type them in the chat. If we have time today, we will get to them. If not, we will make sure that we do get them answered after this presentation today. We will have somebody follow up with you either via your marketer or somebody here at Allianz. So when I log into the Allianz website, which if you've gotten appointed with Allianz, you will have access to, you get brought to a welcome page like this. It'll say, welcome, have your name here. If you scroll down, this is where we kind of have hot links to some really popular things that we have. So where you can view all your different policies, where you can submit an application, if you want to view the rates. What we're going to be looking at today is new business illustrations. So in order to pull up our illustration software tool, all you do is click create an illustration, and it will pull up the Allianz illustration tool. So we're going to create a case today. I'm going to show you guys a couple different ways to kind of solve for these cases. So let's say that we have a client out of New Jersey. You want to say illustrate by product, line of business life, choose the state, and then choose the accumulator IUL. When I do that, it's going to ask me for information about the client. We're just going to leave the name as valued client right now. And let's say that we have a 35-year-old female in good health. So when you do that, it's going to pull up our illustration tool, and I'm going to kind of work my way over from the top. Right here, right now, we're on client. Where we're going to do the majority of the work here is going to be under the plan tab. We also have a separate tab for riders, index allocation, and then where I pull up the full illustration is under the reports tab. So let's just kind of work our way down. This is where you can make any adjustments if you want to change what state it's going to be in. If I want to change the effective date on the illustration, typically you'll only see that adjusted when we have like a product change where maybe we update our rates and we need to go with the old rates or something like that. If I'm going to backdate to save age, you can say whether it's a premium finance case. And if you need to make any changes on the client's information, all you do is click edit right there. And then importantly, this is where you'd enter what the client's risk classification is going to be. And for now, we're going to say 35-year-old in good health. So we're just going to leave it as preferred plus. And I'm going to click over to our plan tab. And this is where the majority of the work is done when I'm designing a case. And again, I'll kind of start from the top and work my way down. Tax compliance, generally, you're going to leave as guideline premium test. Our policy is designed to be run most efficiently under almost all scenarios using guideline premium test. So if it's a scenario where you're going to use cash value accumulation test, typically it's something we know the reason why going into it. MEC avoidance, typically I leave as yes, adjust premiums and withdrawals. And premium deposit fund, that's what I talked about earlier, where you can pay a lump sum to Allianz, then we'll pay it into the policy for you. That's where you can do that as well. We're going to leave that alone for now. But when I have people come to me, and I design these policies all day, when I have people come to me with a policy, typically we're solving for one of two things. Either I'm going to be solving for the death benefit, or I'm going to be solving for the premium. And I'll show you guys how to do both. But more commonly, I'll have people come to me and say, you know what, I have a client that wants to pay $20,000 a year in for 20 years and then turn on income when they're older. I'm just making this up right now. This is an example. Everything that we're doing here is very, very flexible, but this is a very, very typical case that we see. So we know how much premium that we want to pay. So I'll go into premium. I'll set that as $20,000 a year. I'm going to do that from 1 through 20. And I need to solve for what the death benefit is going to be based on that amount of premium that I'm paying. Because when I'm designing a policy for accumulation, generally I want to carry as little death benefit as I can for the amount of premium that we're paying. Because that gives me lowest cost of insurance, best accumulation, best income later on. So how I do that is, first thing that I do, I enter the premium, say how long I'm going to be paying premium for, and then I change the face amount from specify amount to minimum face, maximum accumulation. And I'm going to leave that from 1 through maturity. Now the death benefit option, when I'm designing these cases, if I want to design it for absolute maximum efficiency, what I want to do is I want to do an increasing death benefit for the same amount of years that we're paying premium. So you see here, we're paying premium for 20 years. I'd want to do an increasing death benefit for 20 years as well, and then switch back to level. Most efficient way is using guideline minimum for the death benefit base. That means that once we change to a level, we'll drop it as low as we can while still following MET guidelines. And once I do that, so minimum face, max accumulation for the face amount, increasing death benefit for the same amount of years that I'm paying premium, and then switch to level with a guideline minimum death benefit base. And then I've entered my stuff for premium right here. This is where I'd enter a 1035 if there was a 1035 involved. And then when it comes time for me to show income, you do that under the disbursements section. So I want to change the type from none to income stream, and that will solve for the most income that we can show coming out of the policy without it lapsing. The method we're going to leave as loans. And like I'd said, theoretically, what allows you to have the most amount of money come out of the policy is through index loans, and illustrations will reflect that. So I'm going to say 100% under index loans. And in the example that I'd provided, we're going to turn on income at age 65. So when you're typing, how I denote an age within the Allianz software is, instead of just saying 1 through 20, that's policy year 1 through policy year 20 for premium. I want to say age, which I denote by typing the letter A as an apple, and then I roll it 1 year back. If I want to say age 65, I type in A64 through M for maturity. And when I do that, and I'll show you guys here momentarily, that will show income from age 65 all the way out to age 120. And that's all I need to do on that page. Generally, I'm never touching anything below that. And let's take a look at what this policy looks like. So you can see here, that's going to give me an initial face amount of $448,381. We'd solved for that value based on the amount of premium that we're paying. I'm paying $20,000 a year in for 20 years, and then I'm letting the policy accumulate for another 10 years until I turn income on at age 65. And again, this income number that you're seeing, this is all coming out income tax free to the client. So if I pay in $20,000 a year for 20 years, wait 10 years, and then turn on income, look at the amount of income that's kicking out to the client income tax free, $149,036. And in the meantime, my death benefit has gone up to, the year before I start taking income, $1.987 million with a $1.6 million cash value. So over the course of that 20 years, I paid in, what would that be, $400,000 in premium. And within 3 years, I'm already showing more than that coming back out of the policy via tax-free income, via loans against the death benefit. And then that income continues all the way out to age 120, income tax-free. So, I mean, that's a very powerful conversation when you're talking to a client. We're paying in $20,000 a year for 20 years, then we can start turning income on at age 65, and that projected income is almost $150,000 income tax-free. A great way for clients to be able to supplement their retirement income or whatever it might be that they need to use it for. It doesn't have to be for retirement. Maybe it's, I've got a kid going to college, I want to pull loans out for that. I saw a sweet new Mercedes that I want to buy, but I want to just take a loan against my policy instead of going to a bank and either pay myself the interest or have it come out as a 0% interest loan with a fixed loan. So very, very powerful conversation. And this is a very, very typical design of what we see. And I mean, again, word I told you I'm going to keep coming back to is flexibility. This is a scenario I made up. Maybe a client doesn't want to pay money in for 20 years. Maybe they want to pay income in for 10 years. Maybe they want to do a 5-pay. You have a ton of flexibility in terms of either how long I can pay into it, how much I can pay into it, as well as, you know, when am I turning on distributions? What sort of distributions am I turning on? Everything here is very customizable to each client's individual situation. So briefly, I'm going to show you the other scenario that I get all the time is, you know, I have a client who needs $500,000 of death benefit. They want to max fund the policy. What's that going to look like? So instead of solving for the death benefit based on the premium, I'm going to do it the other way around. So let's say the client, like I just said, needs $500,000 of death benefit, and we want to max fund it. So there, I change the death benefit type to specify amount, type in what the death benefit is going to be. I'm going to leave this death benefit as increasing if I want to max fund it. For 20 years, same as we're paying premium, and then switch to level with the guideline minimum base. And for the scheduled premium, I'm going to change that from specify amount to guideline annual premium. The temptation when you see these options is going to be to click max non-MEC premium. And I'll show you briefly why we generally don't do that. If I go back to the quick view, with a life insurance policy, it's going to have to pass 2 tests. It's going to have to pass the 7-pay test, and then either the guideline premium test or the cash value accumulation test. Typically, with Allianz, it's going to be guideline premium test. So in the first part of the policy, we're limited by the 7-pay number. That 7-pay number is the max non-MEC number. But once we've paid that in up to the guideline single premium, the policy can only have averaged the guideline annual premium. So if you see here in the first 5 years of the policy, I can pay in 3 years of $30,000, but then year 4, I'm limited to 17.8. Year 5, I can only pay in like $2,699 without making the policy. If I run this with guideline annual premium instead, it's going to be the same total amount of money that goes into the policy, but it's going to come out in a way where the premium is going to be level for the client every single year. So I've solved for the most premium that I can pay based on that death benefit of $500,000. That comes out to $22,252, and that would show income of $166,737 later on when we turn income on at age 65. That's going to be the most efficient way to design these policies. Another option that I see quite frequently is people that say, hey, we're paying in that 20,000 a year, but maybe they just need a little bit more death benefit, or maybe we're minimally funding it a little bit more. In that case, if I do it with a level death benefit, if that will clear out. If I do this with a level death benefit, that will solve for a higher initial death benefit. And, I apologize. My illustration software just glitched out and won't let me make any changes. There we go. Well, that's not working anymore, but we're just about at the end here. So if I solve this with a level death benefit, it'll give me a higher initial death benefit, but that will result in a little bit lower income later on in life. It'll be a little bit less efficient because we're carrying a higher initial death benefit. So I'm going to pause there. I knew that I just threw a ton at you guys between talking about Allianz's place in the market, who's our target client, the type of flexibility that you have with the Allianz product between the different ways that you can grow your money and the ways that you can access that cash value, as well as walk you guys through a little bit of case design here to show you what these look like in the real world. So with that, I'm going to pause and bring it back to Bill here. Bill, is there anything that you want me to touch on before we move on?
No, I think that was great, Will. That was a lot of information, but a lot of good stuff. You really covered all bases, which is exactly what I wanted you to do for the agents. We only have a few minutes left, so what I'd like to do is, and I also want to get to our giveaway here. So I'm going to show everyone a few more slides, all based around IUL and some sales ideas and posts that you can start using this afternoon. And then what we're going to do, I know we got a bunch of questions and comments that came in, which is great to see. So we'll reach out to every single person, like Will mentioned. We'll get to you by either email or a phone call, whatever you requested. So we'll make sure every single one of you have your answers, or just call into anyone in our marketing team. We can all help you. And then once you're approved with Allianz, you have an agent number. Obviously, you have full access to us and then the home office as well for backup support, including Will and his team. So, okay, once again, thank you, Will. Let's jump right in to our slides here. I got just a handful left, and then we'll get everybody out. I'm going to try to get you out in about 5 minutes, so we'll be just about a minute or two over. How to get started if you're not appointed yet, which hopefully you are, but if you're not with Levinson, you can't get access to all the tools and platforms. So please make sure you are set up. This is on our website. We're also going to send out a thank you email tonight. We'll include all of this information. We're also going to include some of these sample posts and brochures from Allianz that Will touched on as well. Okay, let's keep moving forward. So we have an entire section dedicated to your agent, right, in the field, and sales presentations. We have business owners presentations, utilizing IUL and cash accumulation for retirement purposes, tax saving strategies, all the above. If we can go to the next slide, that would be great. So everything on our website is dedicated to this section. It says very simple, Resource Center on demand, and then everything is here from all carriers and presenters. So it's very easy to use. Just point, shoot, click, you're off to the races. Okay, next up is our 411 newsletter. We had a lot of changes in the last month, 2 months with products and carriers. So everything is here at your fingertips, including the expo presentations. We even did a webinar recap. We did an expo recap. We did a video recap, all based around the expo presentation. So you'll love that. It's in our 411 newsletter sitting in your inbox. Let's keep moving forward. These are some sample social media posts that we handpicked that are based around IUL as well. And here's what's so interesting, and I promised you all I would pull these and show you each post every single week, the ones that are performing great. So almost 1,000 likes on the left-hand side. And look at those 5 bullets there, right? They're very simple, very vanilla, right? You can do the same thing, right? Just change. I always say you don't have to reinvent the wheel, change a few spokes, but these are working and they're doing great. These 3 posts right here created over 10 comments, which are all potential leads, and over 1,200 likes. Every like is a potential prospect. And again, it's just basic common sense. You're talking to the typical layman out there in the field, okay? Not the agent field, the consumer field. So you literally just break it down, think about the most common questions and comments based around life insurance sales and policies, and then you literally share a post, get a little creative, and you're off to the races. I encourage you to check out Instagram and Facebook, and you can type in Indexed Universal Life and look at top performing posts. I would do that every week, okay, and see what's new, what's different, right? Just to give you some ideas. Let's keep moving forward. So I have a part 3 episode on our podcast. So Ian has been with us, let's say over 15 years now, and he literally is doing a part 3 episode. He's been on 4 or 5 webinars as well, almost every expo, agent panel, all the above. He's got more to share, and he's having his best years now recently. So he's going to be featured tomorrow, and then we'll get that podcast out by Monday. So you'll have that in your inbox by Monday. It's basically 60 minutes of me picking his brain, pretending that I'm an agent, and just sharing what's working, what's not, how the industry's changing, from an agent's perspective out of the West Coast of California. So great stuff from Ian. And then next up, and then we'll wrap this up with our question. This is our menu of upcoming training. So just a couple things I want to point out here. We have literally every week is full for the next few months, which is great to see because we encourage our agents, right, to get out there and learn. There's so many moving parts, and it doesn't matter how long or how short you've been in the business, you never stop learning, right? The companies, the products, and Will can attest to this, but there's lots of changes constantly, especially with underwriting and technology now. So this is a great way for you to keep your finger on the pulse with all of the latest and greatest. Then the light blue, that's all of our upcoming webinars. And then on the bottom, I want to point this out. If you're a South Florida agent, we're having a breakfast training in 2 weeks. It's an annuity breakfast training on us, and we literally go over annuity product sales strategies from 9 a.m. to noon. So if you're interested, let us know. Let's go to the next slide here. My final slide, question of the day. So make sure your little fingers are on the keyboard and you are ready to answer first. And you got to be accurate, of course. And the giveaway is the high definition HD8 Amazon tablet. So you can write some e-apps on there. Number 2 is you get 2 prospecting books. One is Mary Reed, her version, and then one is the IUL prospecting book from the IUL Academy, which I think you'll love as well. Real fast, my Positive Tuesday quote: you can never dim someone who has learned to shine in the darkness, right? No matter what, it's your turn and time to glow in the dark. And it doesn't matter what's going on, right? Globally, with politics, with your neighborhood, with whatever it is, right? You have the gift to gab, especially when it comes to insurance sales and taking care of families. Get the message out. Be the guru, right? You want to make sure you are well known front and center when it comes to IUL, long-term care, right? Retirement planning. You want to be the go-to. So you have to get your social media pages up and running, your website, make sure everything's current. You got to be scrappy with your mindset, right? You've got to get the word out. All right, enough of my ranting. Question of the day, and we'll put a bow on this. Get ready? Okay. See everyone's little fingers are on the keyboard. We are good. Question is, how many times per year can you use the Allianz Rate Lock feature? And what is the interest cap? So what is the cap you are limited to? And how many times a year can you use the Allianz Rate Lock feature? Okay. So it's a 2-part question. Whoever answers first wins. And of course, you got to be correct. So JC is going to tell us who was first and who was correct.
Got a winner, Bill. Christine B.
Okay. Christine B. Congratulations. So it's 1 time per year, and there's no cap. Kind of a trick question. So you can use the Allianz Rate Lock feature up to 1 time per year with no cap. That's huge, by the way. Okay, and you heard Will touch on that briefly as well, but that's a big leg up versus the competition. All right, let's all have a great Thursday, great rest of the week, great selling. thank you again, everyone, and reach out anytime with any questions whatsoever. And Will, thank you. You did a fantastic job. Great selling.